Well, here we are, together again. That's right, both of us are actually here on an episode of the workshop. It's been a while, quite a while, but hey, you get the blue moon like once a year or something like that, right? The twice in a month something. I'm missing references. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyways, yeah, we've got a brand new episode here for you guys tonight, and it is about a lack of information, which means that there will be more at some point? An announcement of no announcement? Does that make sense? Do you know where I'm going with this? I don't know where I'm going with this. But yes, here we are. Welcome back. Westmarch Workshop. I even forgot the name of the show. I'm doing I'm rocking here. Well,
man, I was waiting to what should I laugh at, and that one got me. That takes the cake.
This is like that like series that I see like a bunch of comics doing on like Facebook. Like you have a bunch of YouTube comedians that get together and they just tell each other like really bad dad jokes, just so they can get each other to laugh.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. But yeah, so welcome to Westmarch Workshop, episode 125, BlizzCon reveal?
Question mark?
Question mark? If that wasn't like insinuated in the stretching out of the word.
Who put the question mark on the teleprompter? You know he reads everything. Oh boy.
I'm Ron Burgundy?
This is Westmarch Workshop?
Well, I guess I legitimately had to ask that question a couple seconds ago. I did.
That was a real question. Not a play. Not for play. For real.
Yep. But I guess we'll have to get to that particular news point here in just a little bit. We've got some stuff to talk about.
Some housekeeping to do.
Yes, Leviathan, my good friend. How have you been doing these past couple weeks?
I've been good, man. It's been up and down in terms of New England standards. It's officially fall up here, so of course we have the beautiful foliage to look forward to. What is this fall you speak of? It's this part where none of the leaves in Florida change colors at all, because you have those nice palm fronds. But we, here in parts not Florida, actually will see leaves fall from the trees, thus the name fall.
We just had something like that, a fall, where, like the leaves all fell and then changed colors.
Was that thanks to some natural disaster type stuff going on?
Just a little. Just a tiny little bit.
Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed? Question mark.
It was interesting.
It's too soon to laugh at in the face of hurricanes. I don't know. Jeez, there is still craziness going on. Of course, shout outs and thoughts out to Puerto Rico, which is the latest to get full hurricane. Crazy over there, man.
Yeah, and sorry for the internet connection being a little bit of a hiccup there. It seems to have fixed itself already, but if there's a little bit of drop frames here and there, sorry. My fault.
Bear with us.
But definitely, shout out to, if we do have any listeners out there in Puerto Rico, I hope that whenever this episode does get to you, that everything finds you well. I have a bunch of friends. When I lived down in Fort Lauderdale, there's a lot of my friends, neighbors and such were from Puerto Rico down there, and quite a few of them have actually flown back over to try and help out in any way, volunteer their time and money and such. So it is.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's definitely a tragedy of everything that's going on over there.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. There's just so much real life in the span of such a few weeks,
Mm-hmm.
Definitely pushing people to the limit.
Yeah, and what is it? The double earthquakes hitting Mexico City?
Yeah. Talk about more disasters.
Yeah. Well,
it's nuts.
Yeah, we're getting pretty heavy here.
We're getting the somber stuff out of the way first.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there's one more topic that might be a little somber.
Yeah.
But to brighten the mood a little bit more, back to Weeks in Gaming.
Yep.
It's been going well. Mostly I've personally been working on solo Demon Hunter stuff, like I was mentioning in the last episode. I now have been up to Paragon 50 on that guy, so starting to grind, even though it looks like maybe our season will be ending here relatively soon. A little spoiler of a topic to come, perhaps, or discussion to come. Outside of that, still messing around with the challenge rifts. Haven't been as into them the last couple of weeks. The week before, the one that just passed was a witch doctor, and it was the lawn spirit barrage. I could not wrap my head around it at all. Like, the one thing I didn't like was tracking the dots was a little hard to do, and that could just be my inexperience, but I couldn't tell when something was haunted or if it had locust swarm, and it was so key because of the ring of emptiness boosting up your damage. So I don't know. I couldn't really figure it out. But the monk one previous to that week, I definitely figured out. So crushed a rank 1 on that sucker. Let's go.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Yes, sir. So yeah, it's been an interesting up and down with them. Some of them, it really feels like some of them are cool experiments as far as me getting my feet wet with classes I don't use. And then some of them are just like, oh, this feels like home. And then you really try to hone in on those and get those fast times.
Yeah, it definitely has. Like, I have not played a monk since Reapers launched.
Oh man!
And so every time that's one of those challenge weeks comes out for the monk, I struggle a lot. Like, monks are a lot squishier than I would have ever expected. But I guess that might also just because the couple of builds that we've played with them. But yeah, I definitely struggle a lot every time that I play one.
It definitely speaks towards how much familiarity helps, because I can even think of, when I'm looking at guides to make or classes to cover on the PTR and such, I don't even feel all that qualified to really do classes I don't personally play all that much, because if I'm just going to hop on there and test a set, I don't really have a background for what it used to be and how much it's improved, nor can I really play it like to its not even potential, but moderate level of skill. So I feel like me even putting something out would just not even do it justice. It's kind of that, it puts you in a weird space as a content creator when there's so much ground to cover. Now with 7 classes, 4 sets that are all seeming pretty good, it's actually a lot out there.
Quite a bit. And so if you want to go through and cover that, especially like just the range of the randomness that comes from the challenge rifts, it might not even, it might be this build but screwed up. You might. Yeah, I wonder what it's like for someone that's actually like proficient in the build, but it's just bad. Like that first Demon Hunter one that we had. That was multi-shot but set up for Marauders. Like, now that you're actually a bit more into it, I wonder how bad that actually would have been, like, if you were to play it now.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
I can even remember
like, competitiveness.
Yeah, you almost have to unlearn what you know and just
you must unlearn what you have learned.
You have to succumb to the build in front of you. Because I can definitely remember the first one, I think, for Demon Hunters or maybe it was a PTR one still, was the Shadow one that didn't have a chain of shadows. And I just been playing shadows for so long, so I was like, oh yeah, Infinite Vault, let's go. We're gonna speed through. Oh,
yeah, it's instinctive.
Just no discipline ever. Like, for the first 10 runs, I was just like, I don't get it. I thought I was a DH. Apparently not.
Yeah. Also, a couple of people are pointing out in the chat, and again, very sorry. I know that my internet connection isn't the best. I think this one might be a little bit on Discord with a Leviathan going through and all of a sudden freeze framing in the video.
Yeah, we are trying out a new platform as well too.
Yeah, your audio is coming in like perfect so far. We're not dropping any additional frames at the moment, but yeah, you'll just have moments where you freeze up.
As long as the audio is good.
Yeah. I'll let you know if it gets too bad.
All right. And that's really it for me, though, in weeks in gaming. A little bit of Hearthstone dabbling whenever the Tavern Brawl's interesting. Actually, last night I managed to come across a key for Hob, which is the new game from Runic Games that did Torchlight 1 and 2.
Oh.
So I'll be checking that out in a couple of days. And some friends keep trying to get me to play PUBG, so I might embarrass myself in that game as well.
It is the new hotness. It
really is. Hotness. Those Steam numbers don't lie, man.
No, they do not. I know for myself, I have been doing less on the video game side, just with how everything's been playing out recently. There was Hurricane Irma that came through, and thankfully we had no damage. My area was actually up and running relatively quickly. Just everything back to normal after just a few days. And but also just kind of like being disconnected and offline, not spending as much time with any video games lately. Been trying to put together kind of like a small little like a gaming club or a gaming league for the Warhammer stuff, and just kind of been focusing a bit on that lately, going through getting models built, getting stuff painted, as well as just kind of like trying to scout out players that might be interested in going through and forming like an actual like instead of just like the group of guys that hang out at the hobby shop, like an actual kind of like gaming league, so we can set up our own like tournaments and start doing invites, or maybe, you know, publicize it a little bit more. Just trying to get a little bit more involved in the hobby.
You know, if you want to make it official, you guys should come up with like a cool name, like maybe like League of Legends, and get a website for it, and really just go to town.
Yeah,
I think that's
and then,
a free IP.
And then we could stream it on Twitch. I'm sure that hasn't been used. Pretty sure.
You'll be able to get League of Legends, twitch.tv/League of Legends.
Totally, I'm sure.
Sick. Sign me up.
All right, see, there we go. That guaranteed to work. It already got you interested.
Boom.
Yep. But yeah, it's just been some interesting stuff going on, and so just you know, work is work.
Work.
Yep. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I've been at least trying to log into Diablo, do the weekly challenge rift. I've got a little bit more that I have to go through and push for in order to just like kind of like slam out Guardian. I think there's like the procrastinator part of me that's waiting until like the season announcement, and then also despite best efforts, it's really funny that even before the like service call, after the hurricane, my internet connection is the best that it's ever been.
Really?
Yeah, like it just took the hurricane, I guess, realign something.
Just hammered those lines back in.
Yeah, still get like that random disconnect, or not even random disconnect, random massive lag spike every once in a while. That's still, you know, it's like you never know when it's coming. You know, and so just don't know whether it's worth risking it for the hardcore or what have you, and just we'll see. I mean, eventually it's gonna be like, well, who cares? Screw it. It's, you know, it's now or never.
Gotta get it done.
Gotta get it done.
You know, I've been on kind of a similar thought process, just because over here, for me, it's been a lot of power outages. Just, I don't know if it's a bad grid over here or what, but I'll just come home and I'll get either right before I've just gotten home, because, you know, you can tell from your clock resetting to noon how long it's been out or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll come home and it'll have just gone out. Or sometimes I'll actually turn the computer on, like go get undressed from work and then come back and like, oh, there goes the lights. So it's really strange. And I'm thinking of either getting like an uninterruptible power source thing.
A UPS?
Yeah, UPS. Or just maybe switching to softcore. Like, I don't know, because we always preach if the conditions aren't right, then maybe hardcore is not the best mode to go for, right?
You know, it's definitely been a question that's been in the back of my head, because, you know, moving here and then the way that the internet connection in my last place had deteriorated, it definitely, it's like one of those things is like, I get on the computer, well, you know, let me go through, I'll play a little bit of Diablo tonight or whatever. Let me go and, like, you know, just pull up stream here so that way I can get, you know, watch something as I get, you know, relaxed from work, and then the stream freezes, and it's like, well, Hearthstone it is, and then and then I get disconnected in an arena run, and it's like, well, shit, you know, it's c'est la vie,
right?
Which I guess has even more meaning since we're talking about dying.
Yeah, seriously though.
Yeah.
It would be kind of too ironic if both of us switched away from hardcore at the same time.
Yeah.
I feel like such a bedrock of us. But I mean, sometimes you got to do what you got to do if you want to keep enjoying things.
Yeah, and it also does bring me to an interesting topic, but we can save that one for when we get to the next segment.
Ooh. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, should we hop into some news topics then?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's hit some news stuff. Since our last recording, there is no new patches, but there was at least one kind of pseudo major hotfix.
Yes, this one has me personally incredibly excited because one of the builds slash sets that kind of wasn't moving forward for Demon Hunters was the Shadow set. They had touched Marauders, gave it some nice love. It was looking like it's going to be probably the top Greater Rift performer with the whole grenades and, geez, what's that weapon? Manticore set up again. And then they were boosting multi-shot quite a bit with some multipliers on your Dead Man's Legacy and Yang's Recurve. Then Nat 6-piece got that crazy boost. And Shadow's just like, well, here's a Carly's Point. Has a little bit of a multiplier on there now. Go have fun. So someone endeavored to catch Don Vu's attention since he was popping up in all the forums and just saying, hey, what about that Shadow set? And he acquiesced, or the team acquiesced, and gave it a nice boost. So now we're looking at a 50,000% damage boost to Impale on the 6-piece set. That's up from 40,000 previously.
Yep.
And then the multiplier that was on the PTR originally for the Carly's Point legendary power was ranging from 60 to 80%. And they were like, well, we can do a little better there. So we're going to go
just a tad bit.
Like a small little boost. And they just moved it up to 375 to 500%. And man, Nine, let me tell you, this buff is real, my friend. Taking whatever Shadow's gear that I had left over from season 11 on the hardcore side of things, I was like, let me just go and see how ham I can take this. And so I pumped all the Paragon, did as many augments as I could, had some pretty decent pieces, but nothing like the stuff that I had that I lost right at the end from a power outage, by the way. So went in and was just cruising. I think I did a Greater Rift 100 in like less than 5 minutes, and then a 105 in less than 10 minutes, and then finally ended around Greater Rift 108, and I think that one was like 13 or 14 minutes. But the power level is ridiculous.
Crazy.
It's still in terms of your elite hunting, single target, but you notice just trillions of damage even before all your multipliers are lining up with the Wolf and COE and stuff. It's real, man.
Yeah,
this could be the top build now.
Well, because what was it? You managed to clear like a 108, and I think as of just a couple days ago, I haven't checked the PTR in a little bit, but I think the highest on the Demon Hunter clear was like a 112.
Yeah, on the softcore side
with the shadows, and so that's pretty crazy.
And I don't even think that's the ceiling. I would imagine it can probably reach into the 115 range, and then those who really want to push it, probably 16, 17, 18.
Yeah, and then for all of that, as awesome as that is, it's still behind the Necro.
Yep. God damn it.
You got an extra 500% damage on Impale, and then they buffed the 6-piece set bonus by an extra 25%, and it still can't catch up. It might. We don't know. Obviously, that not the top best geared players are on the PTR going through and testing it out, and they're having to go and refarm, the perfect Carly's Point and get a high level augment for it and all that. But that's damn close. If it could get to even like a 117, that's still within 2 Greater Rifts of the top.
Yeah, and it's kind of like back in the day when we used to talk about, what Greater Rift balance would look like. I think that kind of was the target, was that, maybe 2 to 3 Greater Rift disparity. Of course, that does add up when you're looking at just the power level of being able to determine which class is best, like the typical Reddit question or whatever. But I mean, having them within that spitting distance of each other is certainly a testament to 2.6.1 and just how much boosting everything needed to catch up to the Necros that barely got any major buffs, especially nothing really towards the Blood Lancer, besides just that little bit of the reduction on the health cost.
Yeah, and I mean, like, going through and looking at like, if you look at Reddit right now, there's quite a few like little posts that people are going through. It's like, hey, I know this isn't even at the top, you know, but I cleared Greater Rift 100 for like the first time ever, and I did it solo, like as a necromancer. You know, it's like, it's a testament to how powerful the class is. But wait until we actually get to season 12, and people are posting it. It's like I'm playing a Crusader, and I got to Greater Rift 100. You know,
with Condemn,
like, with Condemn. You know, it's just like it's gonna be crazy, absolutely crazy. That I'm sure there's gonna be a big thing of excitement for a lot of people that, you know, haven't ever gotten that high, whether it be in a group or what have you. And now all of a sudden, because of all this massive power creep that's coming in with patch 2.6.1, which it's not even really terribly power creep, because the ceiling itself isn't really being raised. The floor is being brought up to it.
It's like power catch-up.
Yeah, I think that's actually a much better description, that everyone's going to be able to go through and kind of experience that. Which then, of course, isn't going to be like, how high will people push in this next season, just because the XP gains are going to be that much crazier. You know, you'll be getting Paragon 800 within like 2 days.
It does make you wonder. I wonder, the speed meta for Greater Rifts will probably change. Although the Rathma set, actually, I did say that the Necros didn't get too many changes, but even the Rathma set and Pestilence and Anar all got touched. So who knows what the speed meta is going to look like? But yeah, I can imagine us doing now some of those group Greater Rift 100s, 105s or something, or 110s as the new speeds of, you know, like 4 minutes. Clearing those is going to be silly. You're right. Paragon is going to be through the roof.
And we go back, you know, like to season 1. You know, which were around like this area. Hey man, you know, maybe you too will be able to get to Greater Rift 30.
Yo, 9, I think I'm gonna clear a Greater Rift 40 this weekend. I can feel it.
Oh shit, Greater Rift 40 in season 1? No. You just died in the challenge, in the trial rift.
Yeah, I can't even make a 40 key.
Oh my man.
Gosh. Yeah, we've come a long way.
Remembering that, I think I remember, like, in season 1, I think I was like going through in the trial, like in the trial rifts, just like making like 20 keys or like 21s or something.
Dude, yeah. It was like a big deal. If you actually made the key you wanted, you're like, holy crap, I was able to make a 33.
Yeah.
Or you had to get groups. There were even like groups people would put together just to make keys in the trials. So nuts, man. Yeah, we've come a long way, that's for sure. There are still, just to bring it back a little bit to the PTR, there are definitely still those questions going around, because we started touching it a little bit, of kind of what the GR speed meta is going to look like. What's the 4-player meta going to look like? Who's got the best solo builds and things like that. And I think we're still waiting to see where those numbers shake out, because you were just mentioning before we started, it looks like we're going to get another PTR patch, and maybe it'll have some number adjustments, or mostly we're thinking, what, bug fixes?
Yeah, you know, obviously there's a really big news drop that happened today, and we will get to it, I promise.
We're teasing you.
Yeah, and part of that, I think it was part of that post or another post that was today, that it was, there will be at least one more PTR patch, but it'll mostly be some big bug fixes and some addressing some server stability issues, and then that would require at least like another week or 2 to fully test out, and then afterwards we should get the end of the season and ready to roll in season 12.
Yeah, the news that we are teasing and evading talking about just yet has certainly given me some thoughts on maybe a new timeline for the rollout of 2.6.1. Because I thought it was going to get paired up with BlizzCon, but maybe not. Yeah. Maybe not now.
No, it was funny, in that post, Nevilistus actually did mention that BlizzCon has a bearing on the Season 12 and the patch 2.6.1 launch, because like every single Blizzard employee is like involved in the production of BlizzCon somehow.
That's right. Yeah, she was even saying the people who, are handing you the merch that you buy are all Blizzard employees, not, aren't people that they're just picking up for the weekend.
Yeah.
So they're all people at Blizzard.
Yep, so it's, it definitely is something that puts a strain on content development because they're, they have people that are prepping for BlizzCon. Even if it's just someone, for like a lightning talk, you have to put you put a 5-minute speech together about a topic. It's a little bit nerve-wracking.
I still have a 100-word essay due tomorrow that I haven't started yet.
There you go.
Gotta love memes.
100-word essay. It's like you can actually post that on Twitter now.
Topical.
Current events.
That's how we're like time-stamping the show with current events, It's like holding up the newspaper. I remember when.
Oh, yep.
But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. To hype the patch a little bit more, I can't recall if we've talked about it yet, but are you leaning in any particular way now that you've seen sort of all the cards on the table? Necromancer, Demon Hunter, Witch Doctor, feel like these are all your past loves.
I am definitely drawn to the fact that like Marauder is a top contender for the Demon Hunter. But they're buffing my Pestilence, man.
Yeah,
they're
really...
They're buffing my Corpse Lances.
It's so funny, because I feel like we still need to just carry the timeline of... That Pestilence set, man, I don't know.
That looks like garbage, man. Why, why, is this like the corpse build when it doesn't do anything with corpses? Sure, you fire a free Corpse Lance, but that skill is garbage. Like, that is so bad. Like, who would ever use that? Okay, so they kind of like buffed it, and, Corpse Lance is doing some decent damage now, but it's like single target. It will never work. Oh, holy shit, guys, a 119 was cleared with Corpse Lance. Highest solo Greater Rift ever. And now the by far the best boss killer is the Corpse Lances, for the 4-man meta. Corpse Lance. Corpse Lance.
Crazy.
Yeah, but it's so fun. It's like every time I play it, like the last couple times I've actually logged on to play Diablo in these few weeks, I've just went and farmed DBs, even though I have a shit ton, because it's the Pestilence set with Sages. It's just so much fun. I just run around the board. I don't even have to click anything besides picking up loot, because the Corpse Lances kill everything.
The Auto Lancer. It's so funny. You remind me of Mikey. He was so in love with the Explosive Blast Wizard when that was first a thing. And that's all he used to do. He would just be like, hey, you want to run some T13s or some T11s or whatever it was back then, T10? I have 800 keys, but I just want to do this.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like, just playing that build always puts a smile on my face.
It is sweet when you find that, that build. That does that for you, like that is me with a Con Condemn.
Yep.
Like, it's tough to decide which direction to go, just because one of the things, I can't recall if I've mentioned it yet, but Invokers is looking like it's gonna potentially be the highest set for Crusaders, and if that's the case, that doesn't entice me to Crusader as much, just because Thorns is cool, but it's not the most interactive playstyle. But when I think about the fact that I can be doing speed stuff with a Con Condemn again, that side of me is like, well, I kind of want to do that too. So, the options to weigh are tough when you have that one set, like we've been saying, that you just fall in love, or that one build or setup that you just fall in love with.
You got that favorite, and so when it gets that little bit of a boost, or it has its niche, you're just drawn into it.
Calls you back.
I guess moving, unless there's anything else that you'd like to talk about, we move on to our next topic.
No, yeah, just looking forward to whatever comes up tomorrow or Friday, and I think we're probably just about there in terms of PTR, really starting to wrap up, get the bugs all hammered out, and get going.
Yeah, we're hunkered down for this one and prepping for Season 12 now.
Yes, sir.
Well, another big announcement from Blizzard here recently was you can now get the Blizzard Battle.net app for mobile, so you can chat from your phone with your Battle.net friends. Yeah.
So all that fear of missing out. I mean, you can't play on your phone, but you can antagonize your friends who are online playing while you're at work.
I'm actually surprised it's taken this long, because the World of Warcraft app has had this feature for years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where you could actually log in through the WoW app, so that way you could chat with other people in your guild.
Oh.
Yeah.
I remember when Hearthstone first came out on mobile, I almost used it as a chat app, because I would log into that game and be like, oh, you know, Nine's on, or whoever's on, and I would send them a message through that. So,
yeah. So
yeah,
it's here. It's a thing. I think it.
You can send emojis with it as well too. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway here.
Ooh boy, I can't wait.
Send poop to all your friends.
Smiling poop at that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, hey, maybe they'll increase the friends list.
Ooh, that would be the next step. Also, this is actually a great point to jump in with the whole appear offline thing. Maybe that will finally become a feature. They had started to talk about it again in recent weeks, or I guess probably recent months at this point. But with them moving forward with some of these app type things and connectivity, chat, etc., it only makes sense that that would have to work its way in at some point, right?
Yeah. I think like the biggest thing that I'm interested in it is the fact that you can now, it's a lot easier to like add friends or share your real ID. Because that's always like one of those things, is like you're going through, you make a new friend and you're going and chatting, and it's like, oh hey, it's like, I play Hearthstone, let's go ahead and like meet up. Oh, it's okay, just like send me a friend's request when you get home. And now it's like the app itself will have a like a little QR code that you can scan with the other app to just go ahead and do the instant friending. So I guess
that's actually a great point. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, imagine now at BlizzCon, you run into some people who are at a Diablo panel or something, like, hey man, we used to chat in the game, or like I've played with you, or you listen to the workshop, like, hey, boom boom, friends now.
You stole the words right out of my mouth.
Hey,
yep.
I'm on the same wavelength with you, my friend.
So the timing, albeit probably a bit delayed, is nice that it is right here just in time for BlizzCon. Well, I think it will actually get some use.
That's pretty cool. Even Dredd was saying it could be a cool way to stay in touch with people too at BlizzCon. Sometimes you have those international friends, if they have weird rates or don't want to incur the wrath of roaming or text. Does roaming even, I don't know. But now you can just say Battle.net app each other instead.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I dig it.
Yep. So, you ready to cover the real topic?
Deep breath. Okay. Hit me with the news.
All right. So, earlier today, Nevelis just took to the official forums in order to go through and make an announcement about the big Diablo reveal for BlizzCon 2017. And it is as follows. Hey everyone, BlizzCon... I already screwed up. We'll start over. Scratch that, delete, record. BlizzCon draws near, and we wanted to give... I can't even do it.
Oh god, what's happening?
I don't know. And we wanted to give you an update about Diablo's presence at the show. Last year at BlizzCon, we kicked off Diablo's 20th anniversary by announcing the old school Cathedral Dungeon. If you missed it that first time around, it's coming back in January, and unveiling the Rise of the Necromancer. This year we want to give you a heads up that while Diablo will be on the show floor, we won't be making any new Diablo announcements. There will be time for that at some point in the future, but the time is not now. However, in addition to the special BlizzCon Diablo 3 endgame reward, we'll also have Diablo panels for attendees and virtual ticket holders, and as always, we look forward to a weekend filled with fun and revelry with the heroes who call Sanctuary home. So there you go.
Yep. That is the news in a nutshell. So the first thing that kind of hits you here as a fan is like, oh man, no new news.
Yep.
So this kind of curbs really any tinfoil hat that we like to wear on this show, because no.
And I have to say, you know, I've been watching a lot of like Riker's videos, and he was like going through and hammering home about like, you know, it's like the druid, and it's got the lore, and the wings are named after him, and it's something that they haven't done, and so, you know, it's like the druid is going to be the next class. And I'm sitting here, you know, for the past couple of months, I've been going through and talking like, I don't think there's going to be a new class at BlizzCon this year, and then it's like, you know, Riker, I think you got me. Maybe just ah, shit.
Ah, just when you needed to resist.
Yep.
But it does it. So that's the first kind of glance, right? You're like, oh shucks. But then I think there is something that we've both been observing within the community: this appreciation for getting out in front of it. Because, I mean, no one's memory is short enough to have forgotten some of the crazy fervor that the community has worked itself up to in the past when, you know, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, we thought there were going to be big announcements, and then there wasn't really much that happened. And then last year, there was definitely some fervor, and it was kind of met with announcements and excitement because we did get the Necro out of that. But it's very easy for our community to kind of go off the rails. The dice was misprinted. Like, let's go, Diablo 4.
Unannounced project.
It's very quick. So I think this, more than anything, just helps not only the Blizzard team and Diablo team kind of stave off some of that vitriol that usually will occur when everyone gets excited and then eventually meets the disappointment of nothing happening, but also just the communication factor continuing from 2.6.1 where, you know, like we've been saying, Don Vu, happy to have him back in the forums, communicating with us. We can even trace it back to the Necro, Travis Day popping into Reddit and some of the streams, some of those dev streams that they were having, just kind of keeping us informed. So it's been this new sort of frontier of communication that they're now continuing with when we get a messaging like this, that even though the news is kind of, you know, somber, a letdown, whatever adjective you want to use, hey, we have this expectation now, so we know BlizzCon is still going to be an awesome event to go to, still going to be a lot about that community aspect, getting everyone together in the same place, kind of family reunion style. But, you know, just don't expect those major announcements to come from it. And I think that we're better off knowing now than getting to the convention and knowing.
Yeah, and this is something that I've talked about in the past is, you know, like managing expectations. And, you know, I really have to applaud, you know, Nevilistus, the rest of the community team, and the developers for going through and signing off on this, and that they're willing to go out there and say, hey, look, we've got nothing that's going to, we've got no big announcements. You know, they will still have some panels, which I'm sure will probably be, you know, whatever, like little kind of like updates or content that they have planned for the future. Maybe they'll have some more, just like little quality of life changes that they'll add to the game, or like looking back at the like the headache that was developing the Necromancer. You know, particularly I'm sure Revive. We might go through and see, you know, some little talks and panels about. But it's one of those things that now we know. You know, it's like just flat out we know. It's like we can set our expectations that, you know, there's no new class, no new expansion, no new game that's going to get announced at this year's BlizzCon, and so the wild speculation isn't going to go through and, like you mentioned, like build into a fervor, and then the massive amount of disappointment that would come with it about them not announcing it. Because if you go and you look at that that post on the official forums or even on Reddit, like a lot of the posts are like, you know, well, it sucks that we're not going to go through and get any new content, but thanks for being honest with us. Like this is like a lot of people are saying like, wow, this is actually a really big change in the way that Blizzard communicates with us, and we appreciate it. And it's a whole bunch of like, it's like, you know, taking the negativity, but then, you know, kind of like showing it in bringing a positive out of it. Like everyone is sad that we're not getting any content, you know, or any like big announcements. But at the same time, you know, we at least appreciate the effort that the team, you know, is doing to at least be more open and communicative with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess one of the things to come back around on too is that you were jokingly mentioning that, you know, we saw quite a surprising amount of positivity when we were expecting perhaps some doom and gloom from the community, but also, of course, your typical "so Diablo 4 confirmed" sort of posts.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, like, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, silly, but there are still things that we can maybe try to stir up in terms of making predictions and things from here, because this kind of ties back into the idea of, well, if they're not going to save announcements for BlizzCon, then maybe 2.6.1 doesn't tie as heavily into BlizzCon as I thought it might. And maybe the season does end in 2 weeks from tomorrow or Friday, and the season rolls out, you know, a week or two before BlizzCon. Because like you were saying, of course, all hands are going to be on deck pretty soon for BlizzCon. So I don't know if they would try to get the season started, you know, a couple of weeks ahead of it, or if they really would wait until after.
They probably would not launch it the week before, since there'll be very few people at headquarters.
Definitely.
If they can't hit it within that launch window, which would mean that they would have to give, the end of season announcement by next week.
Sounds right. Yeah, because this is the last week of September, right?
Yeah. Even that wouldn't bring it into time frame. I don't think that it's going to launch before BlizzCon. Is if they're putting out a new patch tomorrow, they have to give it time to test it, unless they go through and do like the announcement on like the 2nd to drop it the 16th and then launch like the 20th. It'd be like kind of like the only real time frame that I could see them making it before BlizzCon.
Yeah, that's really tight. I mean, what they could do is do the next PTR patch, assume, which is probably a little tricky, that nothing crazy is going to go wrong with that, and then at the same time also deliver the 2-week warning. That then puts us for a season end, looking at a calendar here, on like the 12th or the 13th of October.
Yeah.
And then maybe they can get the season started on the 20th. But you're right, if it's going to... I don't really foresee, if it comes to the week of the 23rd of October, that it'll come out, because that's way too close to BlizzCon at that point.
Yeah, because I think it probably would just be, even though, you know, it's a lot of just like number tweaks and stuff like that. Anything where you change the coding in the background is liable to cause issues, and so it's, you know, not something that they would want to go through and push a patch like this big. You know,
too quickly.
The week that no one's going to be in the office to address it.
Yeah, I can already imagine the shitstorm of if anything breaks from that.
Yeah, I could easily see them going through and like ending the season on like the 27th. You know, and then launching the next season, then going forward to November 10th. You know. Yeah,
that was my initial guess. Yeah.
Yeah, the week after BlizzCon.
And then you could, even if they're not necessarily going to use BlizzCon as a platform to say like, look at all these great things in 2.6.1, maybe because 2.6.1 is, you know, quote unquote spoiled via the PTR, maybe that isn't thought of as a new announcement or anything like that. So it could actually be worked into one of their panels of, hey, here's all the class updates, and kind of like a town hall, or what's the State of the Union of Diablo 3, you know, like, here's what we've been working on, here's some of the stuff you can look forward to, because not everyone's as informed as, you know, our listeners on this podcast or you and I. So it could be general info for the masses, and then, you know, kind of work everyone up and then go back home. Patch launches that Tuesday, season starts that Friday. Yeah,
I could easily see them probably not so much talking about like patch 2.6.1, but maybe like if they have something to talk about, like a patch, you know, 2.6.2, you know, with some other, you know, like class balancing issues, or even just some like big quality of life changes, or like reworking like the Greater Rift system, something that, you know, the community as a whole would not consider an announcement, since like the announcement of the Necromancer, the community was pretty split about whether that counted as an announcement or new content or not. You know, so if it's just going to be something along the lines of like a patch, like just like a small patch, you know, the community would not consider that like any type of like update or announcement. And Blizzard, you know, would probably realize this, and they can go and talk about that, have panels about it. But, you know, again, managing expectations, we've got, you know, nothing major to show off.
Right. Yeah, there's a couple of different ways it could go for sure. And one thing I did want to circle back to again was, you kind of teased at it already, but the whole idea of like the druid. And I guess like class packs, character packs in general. It does make me wonder because you did kind of hone in on that Geek and Sundry that Dainty did regarding kind of the way she was talking about it, feeling like it was this one-off thing with the Necro.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing a BlizzCon coming up where we're pretty sure that there won't be an announcement or reveal of any sort of next character pack. I don't know if that takes it off the table, because I guess you can kind of talk to this because we had a little bit of a pre-discussion on it. But, you know, is this the signaling of Diablo 3, let's say it again, going into maintenance mode? Like, is patch 2.6.1 really the last big thing? And from here, we just see number tweaks and kind of some of the, like, Diablo 2 patches we're seeing over the course of the last couple of years? Or is it just that they're not ready to reveal anything for this BlizzCon just because of timing? And, you know, people are probably still buying Necromancer, so they don't necessarily want to kill that vibe or hype.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe next BlizzCon, they could come back with the Diablo 3 update, and here's, you know, your Druid or something.
Yeah, even if, well, I say even if, I guess it pretty much we can almost kind of like, all agree that Diablo is more or less like in kind of like that maintenance mode after 2.6.1, where they're doing this one last big push in order to get everything as balanced to one another as they possibly can. It's, you know, probably one of the best balanced patches that they've ever put out. But like, even if Diablo 3 is in maintenance mode, it doesn't really bar them from going through and making a new class. It definitely, you know, from the way that they've described the Necromancer, I can't see anything else being quite the level of investment of actually like development time as the Necromancer would. But as you mentioned, it kind of goes back, you know, when you're dealing with, you know, even though the Geek and Sundry thing was kind of like a small like little interview, you know, with Nevelistus as a community rep and not so much like as a developer, you know, you use certain words and you phrase your sentences in certain ways purposefully. And it was just, you know, the fact that, you know, it's like, why the Necromancer and why now? Oh, well, we thought that, you know, the 20th anniversary of Diablo would be, you know, really awesome to go through and, you know, add a new class to the game. You know, when you start using like phrasing along those lines, it's like, oh, that's why you added the class to the game, you know, type thing. It had to do with the, you know, it had to do specifically with like kind of like a celebration and kind of like a big like hurrah, you know, for the franchise. And it's also like you've got nothing new to announce with Diablo. We kind of have an inkling of what like the development process behind the Necromancer was, and you know, its development, as best as we can tell, started somewhere around July of 2016, and they had it you know, showable and playable at BlizzCon. And so if they were going to go through and do another class, if we could, you know, reasonably expect that they would be able to do that again. Because as the development of the Necromancer would wind down, like, all the sets are in, the skill animations are in, and stuff like that, the art guys can go ahead and start working on the next class. You know, we can already go ahead and have the senior guys working conceptually on what the next class will be, you know, before the Necromancer launched, you know, this July.
Right.
And so,
the only when I thought of that timeline, the one thing I also thought of was like, well, when one project's done, you also might just want to break too, right?
yeah. I'm
So
sure.
It could have put them a little bit behind the 9-ball, if you will, because the Necro came out in June, like late June, and then it would have been, if we're taking the same timeline, to reach BlizzCon, this BlizzCon for a reveal, they would have had to start working like right after release instead of getting to kind of enjoy that, you know, collective sigh of it's out, it's done, let's just chill for a second or two or three.
Yeah. But
so you're right that, you know, maybe they could be doing the art in the background, but not going full gung-ho right away.
Yeah, or it's just one of those things. It's like we kind of like there is a reasonable possibility that if it was something that they wanted to do, they could have already been in place to do it, you know, and have a new class announced for this BlizzCon if they wanted to. But I guess this is kind of like an instance where, you know, maybe the Necromancer was a one-off as far as like a character pack goes for Diablo 3, and we won't get anything else for D3. but the team roster is growing. They're still hiring a bunch of new, there's a bunch of new developer positions, production assistants and all those other types of stuff for the Diablo team. The Diablo team itself is growing. They got Don Vu back, from the WoW team, but they don't have anything to announce, and it seems that production is slowing down on D3. Whatever could they possibly be doing? I don't know.
Where is this franchise going?
Where is it going? What's happening? So, yeah, I think that this is a pretty good indicator that at least production of this unannounced project, Diablo 4, Diablo Next, Diablo whatever you want to call it, is probably beginning to kind of start in earnest. And I guess the one thing, I said it on Twitter and I'm going to say it here, I'm not terribly surprised that we didn't have any announcement for this year's BlizzCon, because I expect at some point you have to be devoting more resources towards this unannounced project than you are at Diablo 3.
Would you say that you would transition the resources?
Yes. Yes.
You're welcome.
Almost, yeah. It's almost like segueing topics. It is, it's...
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw
you. Now my point is completely lost. Next topic.
Oh, gosh.
But yeah, you at some point along the way, you would transition more and more of your development resources from Diablo 3 to whatever this unannounced project is. But even once we kind of have hit that point, I don't think that we'll have any announcement at next year's BlizzCon either.
Right.
To just be completely honest, because we're only not even 2 years into the first announcement. We're a year and a half since that unannounced project was first unveiled. And then going into next year's BlizzCon, kind of with the time frame that they would need to have something usable and workable, it would only have given them almost 3 years to go through and work on the project, or 2.5 years to have worked on the project. And though just the way that Blizzard now, they don't announce their new games or expansions or IPs unless they're within that year from release. I don't think that the successor to Diablo 3 would be able to be done in 3 years.
No, I think it's a bigger project than that. I'm definitely in agreement with you. And I mean, we've always keyed on the fact that when they do show things, they also have a playable version as well too. So there are kind of a few benchmarks or check marks that have to be hit before they're really going to be able to kind of put all their cards out on the table. Because once they hit that button, talk about managing expectations, but that's everyone goes. They're going to be okay, Diablo 4 or whatever it's called is coming. Here's what we know so far. We can expect these timetables, and people are going to start to have these sort of looking for moments of, hey, are they this far along? Are they this far along? Is this project behind now? Oh God, is it D3 again? Oh God, are we going to have to wait 5 more years? It could, the last thing they want to relive is probably the development hell that was D3. So I can totally see them, like you said, just really waiting until they're within that striking period of, 1 year from now, we can almost successfully 100% say this is coming out.
Yeah, I think it was actually you that first made that observation about their announcement to releases ever since Diablo 3, because of just that problem that they had.
Yeah, looking across the board, you can see it was really, I don't know if it was just a company lesson that was learned or a new policy, but yeah, looking at Hearthstone and Heroes and all those other games, they all fit that timeline.
Yeah. We'll have to see what they have planned.
There is one little thing that's still unaddressed, and I want to pick your brain on it. We touched on it a slight bit in a previous episode, but the remake, the Diablo 2 remaster, classic games, we saw a posting for that, getting shit done over there. So now we come with this announcement, and one of the things that, if you're trying to key in on word usage, one of the things I noted in Brandy's messaging was Diablo, no new announcements for Diablo. Not specifically Diablo 3, but kind of Diablo as a franchise. So to me, I kind of read into that and think, well, maybe that means they're not really ready to move on anything remaster or reworking or whatever reword you want to use for D2 or D1 or whatever Classic Games is doing. So do you think that maybe that's still just in kind of the fact-finding phase, or them trying to really see if it's a feasible project, or like where's your head at with that?
Well, I think it's the most recent one that they had was the production director. It was a senior producer is what it was, and they were to kind of like scout out like the feasibility and what they could do with Diablo 2. And so that's one of those ones, again, you can kind of like go through and look at it. That definitely, from the production value, that's definitely going to be like the upper, concept level. So that is something that's still, I imagine, would be pretty far out. Like they are probably just kind of like treating it softly, but haven't even started working on any code, or just only doing like basic level stuff with the code and getting to see how they would integrate it into the Battle.net launcher, or going through and recreating the game engine itself. Because that's something that Dave Brevik mentioned in his interview with Riker so long ago, where he wasn't sure if Blizzard would even have like the original game code to go and do a remaster or a remake of it. Like he sure didn't. And then he doesn't know if Blizzard would still have those files in order to do it.
Right. Yeah, and those are definitely some problems. This role is probably trying to suss out and see just how much of an undertaking it's going to be. Because you imagine, it almost feels to me like Classic Games is sort of the new Hearthstone team before Hearthstone blew up. Kind of the strike team, the small numbers, get a project done super quick. Blizzard, for all its pros, has really grown into just this massive conglomerate, all their teams with all their people on. Sometimes it bogs the red tape, or everyone idea that process and development can slow down.
Repeat the last sentence that you just said.
Robot.
So, yeah, that one was completely garbled there.
All right, I'll recast the thought. Basically, I was just saying that Blizzard, for better or worse, has kind of evolved into this big company. They have these big teams for their big games, big projects, Overwatch, Diablo, etc. But you can get bogged down in some red tape or in some teams that aren't going to move as quickly. So it almost feels like Classic Games is this strike team of get in, get a project done, get out.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that really is kind of, maybe not this quick of a turnaround where you're seeing a development already at BlizzCon, but maybe it could be a PAX East or a Gamescom sort of thing.
Yeah.
Looking to next year.
That would be pretty cool, and it's something along the lines of that. It doesn't require actual like a major convention or anything like that in order to announce it. They could just do a news article, big press release that it's coming, and then at PAX East have like a playable demo of it, later. So
totally, yeah, because even the remaster for SC2, or sorry, for StarCraft, they remastered SC2 already for the original StarCraft. That was part of like a, I mean, obviously it's in Korea, so that makes a lot of sense just because of the fan base and player base for that game. But it was just like a tournament or an like a pro game sort of, don't call it a convention, but like a GSL
final or something along those lines.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like part of a tournament scene thing.
We're showing our great knowledge on the StarCraft competitive esports scene.
We're clearly studied up on it.
That we are. Which actually, as we're going and doing the trips down memory lane, that was actually my first assignments when I was at BlizzPro. Was StarCraft 2.
Oh, StarCraft articles? No
yes,
way.
I was doing the StarCraft articles for BlizzPro.
Oh man.
Oh man. And then at Gamescom we got the little teaser for Reaper of Souls, and then I just took it off from there and never looked back.
And that was the end of that.
Yep.
Get your foot in the door.
Yep.
Not too shabby. Oh, we do have one more thing. One more thing from BlizzCon.
Mm-hmm.
A little teaser, because your boys from the Westmarch Workshop will be represented in Con Before the Storm. We're actually going to have appearance on one of their panels. We've talked about Con Before the Storm and kind of world of podcasts and wanting to get more involved with that and see if we could potentially spread the good Diablo word to the people. So between Nine and I decided that I would appear on this panel, as you can see with the lovely graphic on screen. It's the kickoff panel for the Con Before the Storm / World of Podcast effort. And we're basically just going to be we're doing what it says, kicking things off and talking about what we can expect. My job just got a lot easier. What we can expect from all the different franchises and just getting some hype going.
Yeah,
for the convention.
They've already announced everything that they have for Diablo, so there you go. Okay,
I'm good.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next year.
Yep. I was gonna appear. Hey guys, Westmarch Workshop. No Diablo news. All right, cool. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys talk about now? Druids? World of Warcraft druids? I don't know anything about this.
But yeah, definitely, it's a great opportunity and something that we're really really proud to be able to be a part of. The Con Before the Storm and like the World of Podcasts kickoff, and that will be held if you're going to be like at BlizzCon, even if you're not going to BlizzCon or just in the area and want to come by and just say hi. The Leviathan will be on the panel. I'll be in the audience. But that is that Thursday at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm. November 2nd.
Yep.
So literally is right before the con.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, we'll have plenty of opportunities, hopefully, to kind of meet and greet and mingle. It's a really great opportunity for anyone that is in love with podcasts that are revolved around Blizzard games to just kind of mingle with some of your favorite voices that you probably hear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know. Tim and Dean from Cool Story Bro. They usually always hang out around the Con Before the Storm every year.
Absolutely, yeah. That's where we met them for the first time, actually.
Yeah.
2 BlizzCons ago?
That it was.
Yeah, so definitely a cool thing to check out.
A cool thing.
Oh, ha! I didn't even know what I did.
I see is what you did there.
I'm so good, I astound myself.
Well, yeah. I guess that pretty much kicks off everything there.
That's news in a nutshell.
Yeah. That's all she wrote, more or less, for all the news that we've got. There are some other topics, season 12 prep and stuff like that, but we're gonna go through and save that. For some episodes as we go and get closer to the actual end of this season and the beginning of season 12 itself. And yeah, who knows what else like tomorrow's patch might have in it that we can go and talk about. And I guess if this is kind of like the future for the D3 content, we'll still always have builds, speed farming that we can go and discuss, as well as just, well, I guess we're going to be in a lot of more speculation mode going forward about whatever it is that the Diablo team is working on in the background.
Yeah, it might go quiet for a little bit in terms of big things, blogs, or news posts to really concentrate on.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll definitely have to come up with some things.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're not going to stop PTR and just like the patches. I don't know if we'll have any more like season 8s where there was nothing in between the seasons. Obviously, as we will continue to get closer to whenever they feel ready to announce this unannounced project, that we will get those. But I think that there's still a lot more that they can do, even if they are funneling the majority of their development time towards this unannounced project. That there'll be other things that the devs will be able to work on and get out there, as far as small little changes. I still would be I'd be surprised if they don't ever bring that whole the Fractured Realms tech into Rifts.
Yeah,
And
I
so
remember you
just
saying
have
that
like,
one time.
yeah, just like a big continual level that just goes from like one tile set to another, and just does away with the need to have floors.
Yeah, I mean, my mission is still with the challenge rifts, just to see them poke around with that feature a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
flesh it out. I'm actually working on something with Dread in the background that we'll probably unveil in a week or two that provides some structure that Blizzard could certainly borrow if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's there, like you said, there definitely are some things where either little number tweaks or feature tweaks, stuff that is kind of laying there that they can mess around with if they really just have a bit of time here or there,
Mm-hmm.
just to keep it fresh.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll still have panels, and we are going to have some content to talk about at BlizzCon, of course.
Oh
We got
yes.
what is it? We've got 2 whole episodes before BlizzCon.
Wow, that makes it feel real. That I mean, it is really soon, but damn, yeah,
Yeah.
2 whole episodes, and then it's here. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
another thing, you just reminded me. We still don't know precisely, although there was potentially a little leaking of it today on Riker's stream, what the in-game goodies will be for virtual ticket and code holders. People that also go to the actual convention and come away with the codes will also get those in-game goodies. But yeah, that hasn't been revealed just yet, nor has the store shown off all the BlizzCon exclusive goods just yet.
Yeah, the pre-sale should start in 2 weeks.
It's usually what, beginning of October-ish?
Yeah, I want to say it's like 2 to 3 weeks before the con itself. Just so that way you have the time to order it and have it shipped to you, so you have your con gear before the con.
Con before the con,
Yeah.
before the con.
Yes. Yep.
That's like, is it, just to kind of derail us a little, but is it fashion faux pas to wear the current year BlizzCon stuff to the current year BlizzCon?
I don't know.
It's like
Is
wearing
it?
the band shirt to the concert,
Yeah, but well, is it on the first day? What about day 2?
Oh,
Is it
'cause
okay to wear it on day 2?
I feel like day 2 is cool because then you're kind of showing off, like I stood in line or got all this swag. Because I definitely saw some people rocking like the Murloc slippers, and I was very jealous, even though they had just bought them there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel it was a fashion faux pas, so you might be onto something.
The only thing that I ever regret not buying is the Paladin Tier 2 Judgment bathrobe.
Those things are sick, man.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have felt like a paladin, or would you have felt like it was time to take a bath?
Or I would just like feel relaxed. This is my smoking jacket.
I have my cigars in here.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Wait and see.
Still a few more things to reveal.
Mm-hmm. And
All
so,
right.
with that, are you ready to go through and kick into some emails and some feedback from the our listeners?
Yes, and if you get a little bit of deja vu, it might be because we've discussed these questions in our episode that didn't actually happen that one time.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, me neither. All right. This email is coming in from Guff from Denmark, and he says, "Sub fellas, I want to start by saying thank you for a great show. I think you are a match and you have great synergy. Duh. My week's in gaming, super hyped for Necro, and it hasn't let me down. I started a Necromancer female, and I'm going for a pet build. I like the playstyle, the anime. Definitely looking forward to Season 12, when Blizzard hopefully have the Necro polished up. I want to play a Revive build, but I just can't figure it out yet. And the reason I want to do it is to acknowledge the D3 team's massive work on that skill. Since I play more and more each season, and I've gotten more and more to play with, it has given me a question. Has Blizzard talked about why there are only 4-man groups? It would be awesome to play a game with one of each class. And then, of course, some items of the week here. 2 items I've submitted from the same Great Rift. RNG gods were with me. Again, thank you for a great show. Hope you'll keep it up. Best regards, Guff from Denmark." And so this was a moment where we kind of poked some fun at the whole console ruined this thing, man. It like made it so that there's 4 controllers on a console and you can only have 4 players in the Diablo 3 PC version, man. Screw console players. But you had the poignant point of, dudes, console came after. Development was like console team doing their own thing.
Yeah, that was something that it's like there wasn't even merged development until after Reaper of Souls. That, you know, it literally was like the PC team went through and they made content, they did updates, and then they handed it over to the console team and were just like, here, make it work. You know,
do stuff.
Yeah, the decision to only be 4 players for the PC was something that was made long before they, you know, ever decided to go and do a console version, and that was because they looked at like their own limitations as far as what they would feel for like the graphics and the server load, and well, I mean, shit, we've pushed that
with just the 4.
Yeah.
Imagine 3 other, you know. Actually, the classic example that would be utterly absurd would be, imagine a party of 7 Blessed Hammer Crusaders just lagging each other to death. Or like maybe throw in some Arakir Firebat Witch Doctors in there for good measure too.
Yeah, you got like 3 Arakir Firebat Witch Doctors all standing on top of one another.
Just area damage
with like 2 or 3 monks that are pulling them into this vortex, you know.
Yeah, you need that density.
And so the monks are just like going in sequence, so they're all just getting pulled around in a tornado while they sit there with the bat tornadoes.
And then the hammer tornadoes. Yeah, that would not be a fun time.
We've got something here.
I like it. We got a mix, a stew, if you will. It does raise an interesting question, though. It would be really cool to imagine a world where you had every class represented and what that party would look like, what each class would bring to the game. Because even now we have such segmented roles with, you know, people even talking about, is support even a good thing for this game, or why do we have supports, and why is there a boss killer, why is there a trash killer? Like, we have all these divvied up roles. It would be kind of weird to see what it would look like with 7 available classes. And imagine if the party was only locked to 1 each. That would also be pretty interesting. But it does beg the question of, what about, you know, the next thing, right? Diablo, whatever. And these sort of, you know, you have your idea of taking more of a Destiny-ish approach. And what if you have like these instanced raids or things where you do have an 8-man group or something, right?
Yeah. You know, that's who's to say what they will actually have for that next iteration. Will they want to stick it to, you know, like a 4-man group? Will, you know, they have, you know, they figured it out, get the tech to the next level, and get us back up to like the 8-player of D2? Or is it something that will, you know, will we see even more? Like, will they take it even further than that by, you know, going and say, like, introducing a more open world system? You know, is that something that we'll get? You know, if they go and take it more of like a MMO route.
Yeah, possibilities are wide open.
Yeah, and at this point, it's just up to speculation. We have no idea what it is they're working on, or what might be involved, but it'd be pretty interesting if they can, you know, kind of like solve that question of like, how do you make an ARPG that appeals to like mass market in not even like 2017 and like 2020, you know?
Yeah. Goodness. Can you even imagine what games will look like at that point? Because right now it feels like everything is so microwave, instant, microtransactions. You lost a life, buy a life, add your friend on Facebook to gain a life. Like, I just can't even imagine what the next wave of hit game will look like.
Like something that a friend was telling me about just the other day, like Shadow of War, the sequel to Shadow of Mordor, a single player kind of pseudo action RPG, and it's going to have loot boxes.
Oh, interesting. You know, I saw some backlash on the whole loot box thing because they've if you look at Blizzard, they're starting to put them across pretty much all their games. And someone was talking about it being sort of like low-level gambling almost.
Yeah, it was actually that was something that I think was like one of the top posts on our gaming and got pretty high just on the Reddit front page overall. And you know, it's like that. It's places like China and Korea and such. They have different laws that relegate like online gaming, and so there's certain things that you can't do there without disclosing the actual drop rates of items. And
Wow.
Yeah, and some other companies that have done like loot boxes just got around it by making everything buyable.
I think that actually was one of the counterpoints, or one of the complaints perhaps, was, you have all these exciting skins and legendary skins and such, but none of them are just straight up available for purchase. So it does encourage people to kind of, hit that gambling fallacy or whatever to keep the loot boxes coming, because there's no gear, there's that RNG factor. So I never even thought to look at other regions and see how they handle it.
Yeah, but it becomes one of the like oh shit, there's that new legendary Mercy skin that came out. That's pretty cool. I want to go through and get that. So let me just go ahead and buy $20 worth of loot boxes so I go and have a chance of getting it. Ah shit, I didn't get it, and I didn't really get enough currency or coins in order to go through and craft it. So now I have to either buy more or play more, get some more loot boxes, and hope that I get it. Versus, hey, that Mercy skin that you want out of that box, yeah, that's a 0.01% chance to drop. Or do you feel like spending that $20 now, knowing that you won't even really statistically greatly affect your chance of getting it with the 20 loot boxes? And that I guess is kind of like the take that Blizzard and some other developers take, where they don't want to I'm trying to remember. I guess I'll have to go back, try and find that article. That they just we're just gonna flat out just sell our items because we don't want to publish the drop rates within the boxes themselves. What's your actual chances at getting these items?
Right, because I could definitely see that be a deterrence from people wanting to even invest at that point. You're right.
Yeah, I use it as a pretty constant kind of reference point. But Star Trek Online, they've been doing that loot box system since they went free to play many years ago, before Blizzard ever started doing loot boxes, and they are rather transparent with their drop percentages.
So it can work.
Yeah. That also could be because I think they're owned by Perfect World, and they have a bunch of investments into games in China and such.
So they're almost used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I mean that's one I think we'll probably come back to many times over the course of the next year, or maybe year and a half, before we really see what the project is shaping up to be. But well, we'll definitely try to hammer out what it could look like.
Yeah, is it something that developers could do? Obviously, Heroes went from buyable skins to buyable loot boxes. They didn't make that decision lightly. That's something that definitely had to have been a decision that was made to increase revenue for the game. So it looks like it does have a financial impact going to loot boxes. And is it that people seem to like it, or is it that it the question is, do people find the loot box system enjoyable, where hey, I had no chance of getting skins before, now I've got the small chance every time that I level up I get a loot box, I could potentially get something free out of it, that's cool. Or is it preying upon the human mentality to become addicted to gambling,
right.
Getting addicted to that chance of the reward, which goes back into just Diablo 3 itself, with the whole loot pinata philosophy, and why we go through and play seasons and start all over, is every single one of those shiny green or orange beams could potentially be an upgrade.
I mean, yeah, if It's gonna be such a shit. I guess if it's in real life, it's a shit post. I don't know. But if you really want to boil it down, Diablo 3 already has loot boxes. They're just contained in treasure goblins or elites or bosses.
Yeah. That was something that, I mean, when D3 first launched with the auction house, that they had the lawsuits against them, and the gaming board, you know, went and investigated them with the auction house to go through, and they were making some pretty substantial legal arguments about, you know, Diablo 3 and its loot system, with the auction house putting the ability to make money off of your drops equated to gambling.
I do recall kind of some of that rhetoric going around. I'm sure it couldn't have helped keep the auction house going alive, and, you know, saying, hey, we want to keep this feature. Just the more under fire it became, probably was another nail that was getting ready to be put in that coffin. Some salient arguments there for sure.
This
All right, well,
started this started talking about consoles.
Wow, we went far.
Yeah, we went pretty far.
The reel is back in.
Guff, thank you for the email.
Yes.
That added 10 minutes of discussion. All right, okay. Now this one, even after having already read it, I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about there. Definitely didn't read this email in a previous episode that was lost to recording.
First look.
This is an email that comes in from Funktropus, our funky psychedelic listener there. Oh god, here we go. So I was sitting in my moldy basement in a pair of yellow-stained tighty-whities, the stale sweat, not the other stuff, you sickos. I was twiddling with a Cheeto that had fallen into my navel with a slow light dawned inside my stringy-haired noggin. 9! You see, I've been gallivanting around Sanctuary in my Rathma threads for a while, and I felt I was missing something, and then 9! You go talking in the last podcast about your Rathma bill, and I'm like, 9! Time to be a creeper and check out your profile, and creepily laugh while twiddling with the Cheeto in my navel. I decide you're doing some stuff better than my old funk twiddle self, and decide to run around with your dual frailty decrepify thingamabob. After doing so for a twiddle, I have 2 observations. It's fairly fun, but so many different button mashings to coordinate. Getting this build down to motor memory is going to add a whole new sweat stains to the tighty-whities. And 2, more importantly, how in the tubular do you leave all of those corpses sitting around doing nothing? My in-game OCD starts twitching like a salt-covered slug every time I trespass a pile of corpses without doing a dang old nothing. I look forward to drinking from your font of wisdom. Oh, that's a little creepy too, isn't it? Funktropus. Oh, man. Well,
wait. There's more.
There will be another email, but to address at least these points.
Please do.
Yeah, it definitely is. It is something that just with a lot of the Necromancer builds are a little bit more button mashing intensive. And I think that's one of the reasons why I guess I'm a bit more attracted to it, because it is a bit more involved. And I enjoy that about it. And second one, yeah, leaving all the corpses on the ground when my favorite set is the Pestilence set is painful too. I fully understand, but yes, there is more, as Funktropus also sent in another email. Chalk this up to me being a total creeper and getting distracted by 9 sweaty balls necro. God. But I just have to get on a rant about BlizzCon Gamescom speculation. You talked about class balance and the problems of sets being the primary grift enabler. What if they could build in set synergy, or like cross-matching, depending upon what order you equip the pairs of set items, like the 2, 4, 6-piece set bonuses are mixed and matched. This would create reams of flexibilities in builds, but ultimately only 1 or 2 that would add up to greater rift pushing. And now I realize that the majority of set buffs, that certain skills are in 3 increments, but I could see possibilities coming out of this. Or, another possibility, a new mechanic to modify skill runes, back in the proto-vanilla days, or proto-chocolate days, your flavor. The beta of the beta, they were discussing rune mods, gasp, rune words? What if you could slowly harvest some resources or experience or something and shun it into rune amplification, such that the crappy sets can be augmented? Of course, then everyone would just ramp up the runes that are already in the best builds. I want more alchemy, more build fluidity, Cheetos, Funktropus.
And so you can tell that this email is previous to, and that's how far behind in the emails we are.
Yep.
Previous to the reveal of the PTR in 2.6.1.
Mm-hmm. And that, yeah, they definitely did a lot better in going and doing the class balancing. But it would be something I would actually like to see the devs maybe delve into. Almost reversed that. The devs dev into. With whatever the next project is something that was interesting with Diablo 2, and that you had hidden set bonuses, where you could go through and you could look at, say, like a piece of the Saigon set, and you could see the things that it would offer as far as set bonuses go, but the things that it wouldn't mention were bonuses that you would get on the individual pieces. I know there was one big one, after I already mentioned Saigons, it was like one of the first sets that came to mind, was, I think it was the Angelic set. It had a neck and a ring. Now, I forget what the other pieces were, but the 2-piece set bonus for having the neck equipped would give you attack rating, but only if you had the neck equipped, and the ring would give you, I think it was defense, but only if you had the ring equipped. So the rest of the set didn't really matter, because the set bonuses, the other set bonuses weren't all that great, but it was specifically having those 2 pieces together that would give you the bonuses that you wanted, which kind of goes into Funktropus's. Well, instead of just having to have 6 pieces of gear on at once to get the 6-piece set bonus, that you unlock the 6-piece set bonus because you have the helm and the shoulders, and that to get the 4-piece set bonus you had to have the helm and the legs. That it was different variations of that in order to go that you could unlock those 2, 4, 6-piece set bonuses in different orders, and that's something that could add in a bit more build variety by kind of mix and matching, playing Tetris with your set bonuses to what could be the most powerful. I guess it wouldn't really add anything more to the build variety than what they've already done in this patch, because it would still be kind of well, this is the best combination, go to it. Whereas this one addressed it more so that not everything is going to be 100% balanced, but we can make everything a lot better. And so that way, would you at least feel better if all of your sets could clear a Greater Rift 100? And so that way you might only be 10 Greater Rifts behind the top build, as opposed to struggling to get your 85 or your 75 for the season rewards.
Definitely, yeah. It's funny, you already preempted one of my counterpoints when I'm thinking okay, how
I got
can
your back.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
That wavelength though. The idea, it's weird because it, at the same time that it opens up build diversity, it also closes it down too, because at some point you're gonna say the ring and the neck are the best parts of this set for me to have on, so now those slots are taken. So technically it kind of reminds me of when people are like, we like lawn because lawn is a no set, but it ends up being a set because there are certain pieces that just de facto you slot in, and those are the best in that slot. And therefore, even though you feel like you have a lot of diversity because you're not using a set, it's still a set, just by a different name. So it almost plays on player psychology, I guess, if you feel like you're making more choices based on the fact that you only have in quotes to wear these 2 rings, and then you can wear whatever else you want, even though you end up wearing exactly the same thing as everyone else that's doing that most efficient version of the build. So I don't know, it's I think ARPGs are just kind of tough in that way, because the internet age makes it so that it's really hard for you to ignore the best setup. If you never knew anything about what everyone else was doing or what the best clearing builds were and stuff, and I swear, man, we keep, or maybe I keep coming back to this whole view hero details thing, but as much as it was a good thing, I just don't know I just don't know how to feel about the information age that we're in when it comes to diversity. It seems a lot harder to achieve it when, especially when you have something like leaderboards that point so heavily towards this is what you must do if you want to be rank 1. Even though I guess I'm kind of all over the place with this point, but just real quick, one thing you have pointed out in the past that was kind of why it point was diversity gets closed down the system with our leaderboards and such, because again it does look at the rank 1 clear rank, and even if there was something that came close, like a Rollins that actually could compete with Blessed Hammer, no one uses it because they see everyone doing Blessed Hammer, so no one ever tests the limits of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean.
No, it's perfectly fine. Just like kind of like a complimentary point that I was going to make, and that it's also very hard to kind of like break people of that mentality with the way that the Greater Rift system is that there's always there's the one higher. You know that it's a point I've made multiple times in the past, that kind of like that pseudo infinitely scaling difficulty kind of defeats that and puts them into that mentality like you're mentioning, where people have to play the best spec, or like I go through and see what the top players are using and then I've got to copy that, as opposed to like in the D2 formula, where it didn't really take a lot in order to be able to breeze through hell, not of course accounting for gloams, but it was just like it almost became a challenge. Like, what type of stupid, inane build could I put together and still beat hell, and clear Bale, without having any problems? And you could like really go back and play what you wanted, because there wasn't really like that overall limiting factor to it.
Yeah, it actually kind of reminds me of a conversation that I think you were having on the solo episode you did, with some feedback from Dread on the whole like difficulty thing. Like, if T13 remains and actually that's something we haven't really come back around to, but they did not so far include higher difficulty, so we're actually still looking at T13 as the max. Just kind of thought about that. But yeah, if you have a fixed ceiling of this is how high the game will make your character need to meet these certain standard requirements to beat, then yeah, once you surpass those marks, you can do whatever the heck you want, because you've already proved you have the power level for it. And so you throw on your nats and maybe make it harder, or you throw on your what's the challenge someone did, Necro with no weapon or offhand, and see how far you can go. And some of those weird challenges you've mentioned from D2 in the past, of people like pacifist Diablo 2 clears and such. So does the devs give you the challenge, the leaderboard system, the Greater Rifts, and you shunt us towards this kind of funneling toward one build to rule them all? Or do you leave it with no way to go higher, but now the inventiveness is kind of left to the players to decide how do they want to play?
Yeah. And that also is like, we've got the Mythic Dungeon Invitational going on right now in World of Warcraft.
Dude, I'm falling in love with that.
It's amazing, and that also goes back to just like kind of like that point. And it's a discussion, I don't remember whether it was offline or on Twitter or something like that, but that we had about like the Mythic Dungeons. It was actually, I think it was in your Discord, about like the Mythic Dungeon system like works because it has that flat difficulty, but not only that, it has that flat difficulty, but all of your gear is downgraded. It's like your gear is all set at the same level. You can kind of tweak which gear pieces you're wearing, so that way you maybe have a little bit more haste, a little bit more mastery instead, to kind of like push your whatever
legendary powers.
Yeah, but like the legend, like the set bonuses and trinkets are also. I don't remember if trinkets were, but like set bonuses were disabled.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you could still use your artifact, like your artifact weapon and such. But there's there's a lot of things that they put in there that limited your ability to like overgear it or power through it. It was always going to be a challenge, and it came down to your actual execution of the challenge, of whether you were going to succeed or how quickly you'd succeed. And then also just like the other things like, oh, they're going to pull this pack and they're pulling it over into this area, so they miss this one, or they're pulling these two packs together. They're skipping this one. It will save them time now, but punish them later on because they have to pull a couple extra packs to get by it. Stuff like that.
No one's gonna like me saying this, but that's challenge rifts. Like it's not as the biggest difference, of course, is that you're still using your character that you put together for the Mythic Dungeons, right? That's huge because you're making choices.
You have customizability.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the things you just mentioned, like the strats, the pulling, the skipping, like that is really what challenge rifts have boiled down to for the highest ranks and the fastest clears. You have to be very familiar with the content, which is static, and the mobs are always there, the pylons are always there and such. The map is always the same, and you learn that, and then you learn which strats kind of help you get through the fastest. I almost feel like marry the two ideas together, and maybe you could have something like a Greater Rift 2.0 or 3.0 or something. It would be so great. Like, I love a lot of what I see in the Mythic Dungeons, and it almost feels like, I think we mentioned this in the Discord, but it almost feels like WoW out Diablo with their own feature. And if you just brought it back to Diablo, then it'd be like the next iteration.
Yep. Who knows? Who knows? Something to look forward to, maybe.
Certainly.
I mean, Destiny, not quite at the same level as like the Mythic Dungeons, but like the Destiny, the Nighthold runs. I don't know if Destiny 2 changed the name. I'm still waiting for the PC version to come out.
Right.
But we're very similar to how like the WoW Mythic Dungeons actually did take something from Destiny with like those modifiers. Like, every time that you do like the Mythic Dungeons from week to week, it will change what modifiers you have for like the Sanguine, or I can't even remember any of the other mods that they affect. How all the mobs, maybe they can't be CC'd, or they'll leave puddles on the ground, which will heal them if they're still standing in, so you have to move them around as they die, or they give everyone else within a certain range of them a damage buff every time that a mob dies, so you have to like AoE them down like evenly, or they like full heal the other mobs whenever they're killed, so they have to be single targeted. And that was something that like Destiny did first with their Nightholds, where it's like everything does increased solar damage, or headshots are disabled, or only ammo for the weapons you aren't using drop, and like different little things like that.
Yeah, it actually reminds me a little bit of when we were thinking what seasons could evolve into. I was talking about this on stream a little yesterday. Just the idea of, we were hoping perhaps that seasons would start to look different from non-seasonal, just because it could be a place where the devs might experiment and say, this is the one season where only Nats drops, or only Secret of the Light drops. Even with just that idea on its own, and we were kind of thinking, like, what if then you made mini seasons, because not everyone would be into playing a Demon Hunter if only Nats dropped or whatever, right? So you just have a shorter season, and then the next one comes along and now only Shadows drops or something. But even with that system of, here is 4 1-month seasons, right? You still can have a collective of those 4 months being one kind of league or rotation, if you will. And even that would put a weird spin on things, because imagine now, what if the support set that all the monks want to use, or all the support gear is, now you don't have monk support, and now what your menus look like, or that would actually be like one of the biggest things, especially with that's some of the conversations that the Diablo community has been having with patch like 2.6.1. Like, should we, they should get rid of support classes, or support builds. And that's something that they could potentially do. And like, if they did start changing up seasons in like these items, or that whole set doesn't drop. And so like how, like what you just said, what would a 4-player group look like if there was no support monk? Yeah, it could. I mean, the world, the limitations would actually be lifted quite a bit, and it would probably bring in, if not just for that season, like the different meta that people might want, or experiment a little bit more. And then maybe like you go back to actually a normal season, and people got used to the fact that now you had a support Necro, or a support, I don't know, Crusader again or something, and they try to force it back in when everything's on the table again. Like, who knows? I don't know. So yeah, that just kind of reminded me of that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, before we're getting good at taking these and running with them.
Yep.
Let's move to the next one then. We got an email from Korova, longtime listener, good friend of the show. From all the way from Switzerland, says, "Sup fellas, is that how you write it? Sorry, I am German and my English might not be up to snuff." And of course, always with the caveat that, oh man, my English isn't that great, and it's just the perfectly
better than mine.
Email. Yeah, absolutely. Was just belatedly listening to episode 122, where you were talking about challenge rifts. I have not ever tried one, and why? I don't like switching specs completely during a season. I have a hard time adjusting muscle memory to a new build, and it took me up to Paragon 100 on my Necro before I got rid of the habit to hit my 2 button trying to vault out of danger left over from the DH.
I get around that by whatever class I play. The 2 key is my movement skill.
Yeah, just make it the same across the board, right?
Yep.
Might have to do with my age. I'm approaching 60, sad face. 60 years young, my friend. Therefore, I would like to see a completely different challenge. Give me an endless set rift with increasing difficulty from level to level, and give me rewards after reaching a new level, maybe special reward every 5 levels. But please let me play it with the class and spec I know and have memorized. I already hate that I have to adapt my spec to master a set dungeon. I am totally not going to do a challenge rift in a different class or even a different spec. Love the show. Hope it continues forever. I even subscribe to Leviathan's Twitch channel, although I barely watch it to show my support. Greetings from Switzerland, Korova. Thank you for your support, good sir. Appreciate the sub, of course. And yeah, this actually is kind of just talking about a topic we were kind of maneuvering around a little bit, where challenge rifts, one of the disconnects is that you're not on your character. And one of the particular hardships is that the time you invest into a challenge rift beyond the first beating of the original player's time isn't truly rewarded unless you really care about leaderboards, right? Mm-hmm. That's the only glory you're getting out of it. You're not actually seeking any drops. You're not gaining any experience. So unless they maneuver, or I keep saying maneuver, unless they rework the reward schedule, or even, I was actually, let me float this idea to you, Nine. I was saying, you know, people are thinking, what if you continue to beat your time and then you can get rewards that way? And one of the biggest turnarounds on that is, well, you could just cheese it and slowly increase your best time.
Yeah.
But however, what if you did this, right? What if you always, the system always knows what the original owner of the Greater Rift's time was to clear? Mm-hmm. So what if there was a daily reset where, you know, the Challenge Rift is up for 7 days, every day you get a chance to beat that original player's time, and at the very least you can earn 7 rewards because you probably on day 1 figure out how to beat their time and then just keep repeating. It gets you back into the challenge rift. Maybe you improve your own time because you see it 7 times by the last time. You know, you might get a decent spot on leaderboard. Maybe it pushes you to go leaderboard a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
it's not the best solution, but
that's something I have to think about, but it is a very good point about, you know, you lose so much. Like if you want to be in the running of, like, the, you know, like that top spot, you know, at the end of the season, you probably aren't doing challenge rifts besides that single clear, in order to go through and get it. And like that single clear, you're probably doing as a 4-player group just so that way you can guarantee that you beat the time.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Yeah. That's it. One and done. Get it done as quickly as possible. Then right back to Paragon grind.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing about how you would balance the rewards with it, or if it really is just there, you know, because that's something that is doesn't quite have the same holdover from World of Warcraft. Because like in World of Warcraft, you know, you get loot at the end of the Mythic Dungeon, so long as you have done, you know, a higher level than what you have accomplished. And then the big thing is like at the end of the week, you get a big loot chest that gives you which gives you like your best rewards based on you know, what the highest you know, Mythic Dungeon that you completed. What was the highest level of Mythic Dungeons that you did? If they, you know, they'd have to maybe somehow, in the current iteration, the only thing that they could do is tie that into the leaderboard somehow.
Right.
You know, You beat the time. Congratulations. Here's your 1 cache. Well, you're over rank 1000, so here's a second cache. You're between rank 250 and 1000, so here's 2 caches. You're between 250 and 100. Here's 3 caches. And as you go on, you just get more and more.
I have to show you my idea. You're hitting the nail on the head there with the little something that we're thinking up here.
Okay. All right.
We're gonna reveal that one very soon. Maybe we'll even reveal it here on the show.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Stay tuned.
Yep. Moving on, our next email here. This one comes in from Guitar Steve 666. Hi guys, I'm from the UK and fairly new to both Diablo, although not new to gaming as I'm 46, and your show, but now I'm an avid listener. I started playing D3 on the PS4. I'm about halfway through Season 10, as you can see. These are emails from August, I'm sorry. With a couple of friends who originally played Vanilla D3. After a couple of weeks of doing the story, getting adjusted to various mechanics, we played the last couple of nights of the season and eagerly awaited Season 11. At the time of this email at Paragon 650, started listening to the podcast almost immediately after I started playing and listened to all the ones from the last year so that way I could understand more about the history of the various metas, patches, and always look forward to hearing your views on the current happenings. The one thing that we have noticed is that we cannot seem to find anywhere near the same sort of a D3 scene on the console as there are for PC. Public groups for the game itself seem pretty worthless, as despite having specific tags for the game types, I've never once managed to find a group specifically for running bounties. That happens on PC too. It's like basic public games are just for running rifts, and that's it. Despite selecting bounty farming, I always end up in groups with people doing rifts or low levels wanting power levels, which I haven't have an issue with helping them out, but it wasn't what I was looking to achieve. None of the public players seem to use the in-game chat. No built-in clan system on the game, and then it all falls to everyone to create their own groups and communities and organize chat apps themselves. I've replied to a couple of messages on Reddit to no avail. I seem to only get 1 or 2 replies. I've also joined a couple of PSN communities, so I can't seem to find out how they actually communicate to organize structured groups. More of a case of people leaving just looking for a group message. Unless any of my friends are on together, then we usually have no choice but to play solo, which is not efficient at all, especially for farming bounties. I've considered starting a clan myself and using something like the Line app for organizing chats, but have struggled to even get as much of a response on Reddit, apart from a couple of players who basically just want to run with other Paragon 1000 players rather than create a community. So don't want to put in a lot of time into a wasted effort. I'm unsure if there's separate US or European servers. There's no details anywhere. I have to assume that due to the low number of players that there's only one, which should in fact make things easier. With the terrible issues non-season, which I won't be playing due to modded gear, then is this the end of D3 as a viable clan community game on consoles? Were we also disappointed with the advertised start time at 5 p.m. in the UK when Season 11 come out, went without any games starting, and then found out hours later on Twitter that the console's start was actually based on the US server time? We had arranged a big start to the season, which then had become a rapid failure with me working the following day and unable to play until that Saturday. I'd really appreciate your views on this or any ideas that you have. Thanks, Guitar Steve 666. And now this one is one that we've unfortunately is not on PS4. It was on Xbox, but we have gotten some emails, from some listeners to the show that have actually had a great amount of success forming a community over on the Xbox side in order to go through and get games together. I believe that the name of that clan was D3 Legit. If you're an Xbox player and looking to go through and join, a pretty active D3 community, that'd be it. But I'm sad to see that there isn't something along the lines of that with the PlayStation. But that person that had emailed us about that Xbox community basically it was something that he wanted to do and was passionate about, because he couldn't find any other communities where they only allowed like legit players. That everyone that was in the other communities that he found were hacking, and so he put together a place for people to get together that didn't want to use hacked or duped items or what have you. And they made their own thing and they made it work. So I guess it's one of those ones where it's like, I unfortunately don't know what the PS4 community is like. That you seem like you've done your research, and so you probably, if there's something out there that was like big and active, you probably would have come across it already. But it might just be one of those ones where it's like just going out there, pushing forward, and putting the effort to go and get it done. I know that's something that I'm doing right now with in real life. With, I mentioned earlier on the show, with the kind of like the gaming club that I want to try and put together. And yeah, there's a lot of work herding cats, trying to get people together and coordinate schedules just to go through and like play a couple games, on like the weekend or something. But yeah, I definitely don't think that it's going to be like the overall like end of support or anything like that. It'd probably just continue on as it is. But unfortunately, like your issues with the public games is something that we also suffer through on the PC side.
I think something to also consider too is that timing matters a lot as well. Like when I think about community building, and I think about even our own efforts to keep the clan kind of populated, we always can tell when the season's winding down or interest in the season is winding down, and also when a new season's spinning up, just by the amount of people either going inactive or requesting to get in. So I think it's the kind of thing where you're going to have to try to build it over time. Like it definitely won't happen and flourish overnight. But, at the beginning of a season, that's when everyone's going to be coming back, checking out what's new. That's a great time to try to get a group or collective together and say, hey, at least us four, are going to team up and try to get this thing going. If you have a friend who's also interested, get them in the group. If you have another friend, like each one bring one, kind of a Ponzi pyramid scheme, but for good things. Mm-hmm. And from there you can grow it. Maybe some of those players fall off in the middle of the season and maybe some of them stick around, but you kind of grow it, and then the next season do the same initiative, and then hopefully by the time it's the kind of thing, if you're really passionate about it, you got to and stick with it, because it's like Nine said, it's so hard to get people on the same schedule. Everyone has family commitments, taekwondo practice, etc. to go and do. So I mean, it's just hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, and I remember like one of my very first jobs. You're working, like back at Circuit City, and one of my managers going and relating the tale of he took a pay cut to go from sales to become a manager because he used to make commission. And it was just like one of those things is like, well, why would you do that if you get paid less, for more stress? And it's just like, well, you take out what you put in. And, it's like having, that manager on that resume for so long, and also going through and building that, it's like, when they switched from commission to hourly, he would have been fired if he still was an hourly employee type thing, and just other benefits and things that go along with it on life's journey. So it's definitely one of those. It can take a lot of work. It would not be an easy task, but if it's something that you really put a lot of effort into, it could be a very rewarding experience.
So we definitely help you spread the word. If you get a server or something together, let us know. We'll definitely hopefully help you build.
Yeah, we'll go through, promote it here on the show.
That's right. We'll do our part. All right. To another email.
Hey, workshoppers. Sorry about the abrupt ending of the episode there. My internet connection just finally gave out completely, and we couldn't reconnect in order to try and finish it up, so I'm recording this ending here afterwards to go through and add on. But I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and don't worry, we'll be back with the rest of the community feedback as well as the items of the week in our next episode. But please feel free to go through and drop us a line if you have any feedback or any items that you'd like to go through and share, or any of your expectations for Season 12, or even, despite the fact that there's not going to be any new announcements, what you might be expecting from this year's BlizzCon, or any speculation that you might have for this unannounced Diablo project that we were talking about. Shoot us an email. It's westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com, or you can also go through and drop us a line on Twitter @the WM Workshop. Of course, you can always go through and catch our live streams on Twitch. It's going to be twitch.tv/BlizzPro. We record every other Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. You can also find us on the BlizzPro YouTube channel, or you can find the audio-only version on iTunes, Stitcher, I think Google Music, and a couple other services there. You can also find pretty much everything that we talked about on the show and more at diablo.blizzpro.com. We're even in-game. We're the BlizzPro clan. We've got plenty of open spots, so if you want to go through and join us for Season 12, you might want to go through and send us an email wanting to go and look and join there. It's going to be a lot of fun, I'm sure, and it looks like Steven and I, from what we mentioned in the episode, we might be playing softcore instead of hardcore, just because, well, I mean, I'm here recording this because my internet sucks. So not really inducive to hardcore gameplay at the moment. If you don't want to leave your current clan, you're more than welcome to go through and find us in the Westmarch Workshop community. You can also join us in chat at discord.gg/BlizzPro. I usually try and be on there at least a couple times every week, but it is around 1 to 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As I go through and maybe play like a little bit of Heroes or some Hearthstone just to hang out and chat with any fans that might want to go through and come and chat. But you can also follow us individually. I am at 9ballgamer on Twitter, and I am at twitch.tv/9ball. I will hopefully stream here eventually, if the internet will allow it, maybe one day. And then, of course, you can follow Leviathan at LeviathanD3 on Twitter, and you can always go through and catch his weekly streams at twitch.tv/Leviathan111. And with that, wish you all good night.